For having me. I'm really excited. I love doing this stuff. If you can't tell, I go around on the conference circuit quite a bit. Some of you might have probably seen me quite a bit on these things. I'm having to throw an audible because between the wonderful presentation from Malaya, hopefully I said that right, and Becky, they pretty much did most of what I was going to do, which is good because now I've audibled and you're going to get something different. So if you're okay with that, I'm okay with that. So for a long time, I struggled to figure out who wants to duplicate some of those numbers that they read. Because in my mind, when I first started, my goal, actually, my first year was 2,500. And so my first recommendation to all of you is set your goal at a level that everybody thinks you're crazy, and then chase it. And you just might achieve things that you didn't think were possible, or other people would tell you were impossible. So reciprocation obligation is my new trademark term that epitomizes what I've been able to figure out. And it's a combination of human psychology, understanding how people work. It's a combination of learning how to control flow, how to control conversations, and create an environment where I could predict the outcome. Does everybody want to predict the outcome when they get a lead? What do we want from a lead? An appointment. And what do we want from the appointment? The sale, right? And what do we want from the sale? A lifelong client, okay? And so that's really the thing. And reciprocation, the definition is a mutual exchange of value. And so there's a mutual exchange of value that occurs when you create a reciprocation obligation. And the obligation part is a duty or a commitment to a legal or moral duty. And where I like to leverage is on the moral side. So for you, the tactical stuff that you can use is, number one, control the questions that you're asking. If you control the questions, you control the conversation. When you control the conversation, you control the destination of that conversation. So as an example, are you scripting the first 5, 7, 10 questions of your call? Because if you're not scripting, you're missing out. Stories are what you should be using to sell. So going through the summary of benefits is great. That's the fact side of things. And if I were to go through this presentation that I have up here, it's all the facts of what reciprocation obligation are. But it doesn't help you apply it. Just like they were saying earlier, when you haven't seen someone for the first time and you make that picture in your mind, why are you doing that? Why do you read a book? The book paints a story in your mind for you to learn with. Because otherwise, if facts helped anybody, then they wouldn't need us because they could just read Medicare and You. All the facts are right there laid out in a very boring manner that'll put you to sleep, and that's really the unique thing. So what's the first thing you see when you see me? I try to be attractive. I think of myself as a flower attracting bees. And what I learned over time was the more authentic, the more genuine I've been, the more attractive I am. And so I'm going to give you some of the questions that I like to ask. Would anyone like that stuff when I go over that? So think of yourself like a computer. Everybody has a computer? Yes? Is everybody old enough in here to remember the first computers? Okay, maybe not the first ones. They were like taking up a whole room because you didn't have access to see those ones. But the first ones in classrooms and offices and other things. How powerful were they? How fast were they? Okay, that's the same way I was when I first started. That's the same way you all start when you start building your Medicare machine. And you want to think of yourself like a machine and control the programming in, and the programming that comes out is controlled at that same time. And so the first thing I did was I got rid of cable. I got rid of every other distraction I have. I stopped playing video games, and I became a professional athlete in my mind for Medicare. So study every day. Study not the plans. Don't study information. Study the people. Studying people will help you relate to people better. So, dentists. Who's tried to market to dentists before? Okay, I have 3 questions that I ask every time. I'm going to give you those in a minute. The first thing you need to do before you work a lead, before you work a network partner, before you do anything is what I call the Oreo method. It's REAO. R is for research. Pretty self-explanatory, right? E is for educate. A is to add value. And finally, the O is to offer solutions. So raise your hand if when you get a lead, the first thing you do is research the lead. So when I get a lead, or I get an opportunity, or I get an idea, the first thing I'm going to do is research it. So if I get a lead, I'm going to do a Google search. Can I find them on anything on the internet to get a clue? Can I go to Facebook and find a profile? Can I go to LinkedIn and find a clue about what history they had, what industry they were in? Can I find out any kind of clue or information? Okay, whitepages.com. I think it costs me $20 a month. I could put any name or phone number or address in there. It'll spit out so much information that I use. Because sometimes the client won't have a Facebook profile, but their daughter will. And so if I go to White Pages, it'll tell me who their closest relatives are, and I can now research that. Now, are you taking your research to that level? Because what that does is it gives you a competitive advantage. It gives me a competitive advantage every time. Now, you have to think of yourself like an undercover cop, but not act like one. Okay? Because what I mean by that is you want to inquire and do things and try to find out things without other people knowing who you are and what you do first. So, Google Maps. Everybody knows how to use Google Maps? If you everybody know the little orange man in the bottom corner? You can grab that man and drop it on a blue road and you'll get a street view of wherever that is. What advantage would that give you if you looked at somebody's house before you talked to them? You can see their yard. You can see what kind of car they drive. You can see. Now, pay attention because Google does tell you when that picture was taken. So if it's taken in 2007, take it with a grain of salt. They might have moved. They might be somebody new. But I have used this tactic, and I'll give you an example. Say I look at a house on Google Maps, and I notice they have an awesome front lawn. Beautiful flowers, beautiful garden, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to immediately know in the first conversation I have with that person, I'm going to talk about how excited I am for my garden. I'm looking for ways to get them to light up with passion. Because when you can have a mutual like with somebody, that's when you can have that connection. And so, however you get it, that's the key ingredient to creating the long-lasting relationship. So REAO, you want to research, educate, add value, offer solutions. So the research part's first. The educate part is, part of the research that you should be doing is identifying the points of pain. And you should be advertising off of points of pain. What I mean by that is instead of saying, turning 65, look for dental, we can't say that stuff anymore anyways. But instead, how about avoid penalties? Avoid making a Medicare mistake. And what about promoting yourself? Do you use your own brand when you send out advertisements? Because you should. And I'll tell you why. Sometimes I do it all. So people always ask me, what are you doing for marketing? I do a little bit of everything. I have newspaper ads that run in my local town. I have my car. Has anybody ever seen my car? It's covered in logos, front to back. You'd think I was being sponsored by NASCAR. I have my own race car too, but I'm my own sponsor. And I would ask you, why would you not do that? Like why would you not put your brand on your car? Why would you not put that? And here's one thing I've learned. Less is more. So you all know how QR codes, right, work? Put a QR code on your car instead of a website. Because people can take a picture of it and look at it later. It's a much faster process. That's what I would do with that. So who likes grassroots marketing? I think grassroots marketing is a waste of time. I do deep roots marketing. Okay? I don't want grassroots. Has anybody ever seen a sod truck drive by? How deep do the roots of grass go? 3 inches? Can you pull out grass? Can you pull out a tree? Okay, so the deeper, it takes a little more energy though, yes? Okay? So the point is, the relationship that you're building with your clients, the relationship that you're building with the doctor's office, the financial planner, and all of that, should be the goal of planting a deep-rooted tree, not grass. And so you have to approach it differently. Has anybody ever bought a tree? They're very expensive. I don't like to wait for trees, and so I bought a already grown tree once. They're very expensive, $5,000 to $10,000 for a tree. Now, if you're paying $5,000 to $10,000 for a tree, are you going to take some time to set up the soil correctly and make sure that the conditions are right so that your tree has the best chance of survival? Same thing with this. Don't just run into the dentist office. Don't just run into the doctor's office. You got to have a script and a plan before you get there. And so the research that I do on a doctor's office is tenfold. First, I'm going to go to the networks and find out what networks they take. Then I'm going to call the office like an undercover cop, and I'm going to pretend my mom needs a new doctor. I'm going to find out what the process feels like, because the best way to test any business is to become a customer of that business. So I'll ask them, are you taking new patients? When's the soonest I can get a new appointment? Are they going to see a PA? Are they going to see a doctor? Do I normally get to see the same person every time? And I start asking a series of questions. And when you ask the questions, again, you control the conversation. So what do you think the questions I should ask for a doctor's office are? Are you taking new patients? It's pretty obvious. What I would say is, I'm seeing online here that you work with blank, blank, and blank. Is that accurate? Half the time they're going to have to transfer you to somebody who knows the answer. Okay, which is okay. But what I try to do along the way is get names of people. So one thing I learned about doctor's offices is they don't put last names of anybody but the doctors on the website. So Tammy is the front desk girl. Okay, what's Tammy's last name? Because I want to research her. What's a way that I could trick Tammy into giving me her last name? Could I call the office and she says, hi, this is Tammy, and then I say, Tammy Johnson? And she goes, no, Tammy whatever. Right? Am I using human psychology against the person? Yes. Now, here's the thing. When you research somebody up front and you start using the information, you have to admit it. You can't just be the creepy stalker that shows up and says, hey, you like gardening like this, you like that. You can't do that. You have to say, this is why I did it. I take the time to research. I take the time to make sure that the soil is prepared before I create a relationship. And so for me, the doctor's office, I'm researching what plans they take, and then I'm asking people in the office, are there plans that they have issues with? Are there plans they like to work with? What I'm trying to find is points of pain. Points of pain motivate, points of pleasure satiate. So points of pain will make you make a change. Points of pleasure will keep you where you are. Okay? So when we talk about programming your computer, you have to practice this stuff. So let's talk about Edward Jones is my favorite. That's the easiest financial advisor for any of you to get into because they all put on their website the Get All My Information kit right there. It tells you their whole background, tells you what college they went to, tells you basically everything but what their friends' names are. And so what I like to do is use a combination of giftology and research to start the relationships. So who do I need to make a relationship with? The gatekeeper, because the gatekeeper is the key to getting to the decision maker, which is why I want to research the gatekeeper first. And I would actually rather Facebook stalk the front desk person first than the doctor or whoever. So get as much intel, because what I've done, this is the exact playbook I've run. Research, get the name of the person, find their Facebook profile. I noticed that she had 3 kids, 2 boys and 1 girl. So I just went down to Walmart and I bought 3 coloring books. Okay? Took those coloring books in and said, hey, I don't want you to think I'm creepy or whatever. I was just doing some research. I tried to get to know other people. I try to make gifts that I give, not just cookies or donuts or taking you out to lunch like everybody else does. And I just wanted to stop by and say, here, these are for your kids. I have kids too, and I'll show her pictures of my kids. And then we had a connection on kids. Okay? Now, that is the seed. I've planted the seed to the tree now. And the key now is to what? Water it, fertilize it, pull weeds, make sure that there's enough sunlight, make sure it doesn't get damaged by hail. Now, in our business, what's the weeds? Other agents trying to move in on your action that you took time to build the tree. Okay? What's the fertilizer? Well, so there's showing up, which everybody does, and then there's the follow-ups, which not very many people do. And so what separates top 1% from top 10, from top 20, is the level of follow-up there is, in my opinion. Those that have the highest retention rates have the most follow-up. Those things that Ron had up there, 30, 60, 90, all those, that's the Humana playbook. You should touch your client on day 0, day 3, day 30, day 90, you should every 30 days for the first 90. They should have 6 touches. You made that, you gave it to Humana. I'm sorry, I gave credit the wrong direction. I apologize. Okay, so the questions. So this is the goods. Edward Jones. My number one question I ask him is, did you know your back door's open? Did you know your back door's open? And they say the exact same thing that y'all just said. What do you mean? Did you know another agent like me, or an agent just like me exactly? I could come along, find one of your clients, educate them on Medicare, unlock the trust bubble, and then roll all the money you have out. Your back door's open. Would you like me to show you how to close that? Okay? Now, how do you get the conversation with the Edward Jones advisor? With the gatekeeper. And here's what I'll tell you. Those gatekeepers are used to people coming in and setting up appointments. So do something different and unique when you get there. And that's where that research comes in. And with Edward Jones, they tell you right at the bottom of their website who their front desk assistant is. So here's the hack number 2. You're looking for people that have 2 assistants, because that means they have a huge book of business. Okay? And you want someone to, so I got the inside track because my father-in-law basically knows everybody in the small town I'm in. He introduced me to the Edward Jones advisor in our town, who happened to be the director for the region who does all the regional meetings. And so I got to sit down with this guy and pick his brain about everything there is to know about Edward Jones. And so let me tell you, they have a level system, level 1 to 10. Okay? You're looking for advisors who are level 5 to 10. Anyone 1 to 4, they're still in the process of building their book. And so if you see they've only been with Edward Jones for 3, 4, 5 years, let them keep cooking. They aren't ready for you yet. But you're looking for the established one, and what you're doing is you're closing the back door and you're providing a front door service, because they currently don't help people with Medicare. And so if you can position to be that person by solving the point of, first you got to identify the point of pain, then you solve the point of pain. And so my expectation, ignorantly in the beginning, was that I was just going to show up at Edward Jones' offices. They were going to like high-five me. They were going to say, everybody stop what you're doing. Get a list for Joshua of everybody turning 65 so he can help them immediately. And that did not happen at all. Okay? But what does happen over time, and this is the seed you plant. And you say this, like, look, I'm not asking you to open your book and send me people. What I'm asking you to do is next time you hear somebody tell you the point of pain, can you help me with Medicare? You think of me, because you know I'll take care of them correctly. I won't steal them out your back door. And actually, my favorite thing to do is to help them find a life sale. They're under quotas at Edward Jones to sell life insurance, but they don't like to do it. And so if you can find one person that they send to you, warm them up and send them back for a accelerated living benefit rider, long-term care, life insurance policy they've been trying to sell them for years, and you're the one that pushes over the edge, one of those sales, and guess what they want to do now? Can I go ahead and open up we took the liberty, we went through my entire book of business, we've identified all the people that are turning 65. We would love you to go through and help them all now. So I've never collected or paid one referral fee from any Edward Jones advisor, and I get between 200, 250 referrals a year. Now that's across about 45, 50 offices. But every year, every new quarter that comes along, I'm back on that annual meeting to talk to the whole new crew and reiterate myself there. So, primary care doctors. I ask basically those 3 questions. Are you taking new patients? Are there plans that you prefer to work with, and why? And are there plans you prefer not to work with? Because there's some plans that they take, but they don't want to. They don't want to be in network. And so I want to identify if there's because what I want to do is identify a point of pain and fix it. So if they have a bad taste in their mouth about Humana, as an example, I'm then going to involve my Humana rep, get the provider outreach team involved, and try to fix that relationship. Because there's no reason the doctor's office should be steering one way or the other. Because what do we know about Medicare Advantage plans? Are they all pretty close to the same in the same markets? Okay? But the networks change a little bit, and here and there there's a little variances. But in general, they all have to be as good as or better than original Medicare. So pretty close to the same. Dentists. The 3 questions I ask dentists. So there's really 2, and there's 2A and 2B, depending on how you read the situation. So the number 1 question is, do you have patients that from time to time stop treatment plans mid-treatment because they run out of money or benefits? I'll say it again. Do you have patients from time to time that stop treatment plans mid-treatment because they run out of money or benefits? Then I follow it right up with, would you be interested if I had a semi or steady flow of people that had between $2,000 and $4,000 or $5,000 of dental ready to use? And most of the time, what do you think they're going to say? But you got to do the research first. So which dentist do you target? You only want to target dentists that take Medicaid, because this is really, for the dentist referral thing to work correctly, you got to work with this is a dual special needs plan opportunity. The dentist offices are only going to be in that arena. Who likes to cross-sell? I love cross-selling. So I go through waves. Anybody think that this business comes in waves? I find myself doing things in waves too. So this year I hadn't been doing much hospital indemnity, and then 3 weeks ago I was like, why are you not doing it the old way? And here's the old way. The old way is when I'm presenting Medicare supplement, how do you describe Medicare supplement, Zach?
This video is sponsored by none other than Lead Heroes, you guys. Lead Heroes is going to be your one-stop shop when it comes to your Medicare and final expense needs. People ask me all the time, Christian, what type of lead is going to be the best quality for me to work? And I don't really quite know if the answer is going to be a digital marketing lead, a direct mail lead, or a telemarketed lead, but I can say that a telemarketed lead is going to be up there with the best of them in terms of quality. A telemarketed lead has unique quality to it because there's a live person that actually speaks to the prospective customer and gets their verbal consent that they're interested and willing to speak with a licensed agent just like you. Whether it be a pre-scheduled Medicare appointment with a scope of appointment captured and then scheduled on your calendar 48 hours out, or whether it be a custom calling campaign where you call the shots, where your scripts are used, where it's the areas of your choosing, when it's the times of the day that you're choosing. Custom calling is where you pay by the hour, and essentially it's a custom campaign built to your liking. Lead Heroes has got you covered for all of these unique type of marketing needs for agents. There's a link down in the description of this video about Lead Heroes. You can learn more about these incredibly unique lead generation services, and I think you'll want to check it out today so you can continue to grow and explode your business.
Part A, Part B, and you get a G and it fills in the gaps. So you have this is literally, again, use stories to sell. So I tell them, picture the rain is the medical bill, and your umbrella is your insurance company. So when you have a Medicare supplement, you actually have 2 umbrellas between you and the bill. And the only thing on this particular umbrella that lets through is $226 worth of rain. Okay, so I describe it with an umbrella. Now when you're describing Medicare Advantage, what's the missing piece? We go from 2 coverages, a primary and a secondary, to only primary. And most of us only talk about the primary because we're afraid to make a sale. Because I hate to break it to y'all, if you sell a product that's 0 premium, you didn't make a sale. Okay? You convince them to take something with no cost. But isn't there a middle ground where Medicare Advantage plus a hospital indemnity plan, while it doesn't fill in all the gaps like a Plan F or Plan G might, does it cover most of the big stuff? So what I'll do is I'll just present it at the same time. Just make sure they sign the scope so you can do both same time, and then you just present it as a package. Did anybody ever work at McDonald's like I did in high school? I did it back in the day when they had the 39-cent Wednesday cheeseburger day. Everybody remember that? I hated working that day because I was on the grill making burgers, and I couldn't make them fast enough. But what I learned about Medicare and McDonald's have a lot of tie-ins that you can use. How do they get you to spend more money? Well, at first it was, would you like fries with that? And then it was, do you want to supersize it? Okay? And now they have 3 or 4 different options of combos and other things. But in reality, what do they really do? They increased the price of the main ingredient, the burger, and they created a package deal where it didn't make sense to just buy the burger. So sometimes we only want the burger, but we buy both the fries and the drink anyway because it's a better deal in our mind. Same concept when you present in a package. So when you present hospital indemnity and cancer and Medicare Advantage at the same time, then you're presenting the package, and you can tell them, look, we can pick stuff off. You can always go backwards. But what I see a lot of agents make the mistake of doing is trying to take them from their group insurance where they're paying $500 a month all the way down to zero and then build them back to $80 for the hospital indemnity. The second you take them psychologically to zero, they're staying there. So are they still saving a bunch of money if you take them from 500 to 77 or 100 or whatever? The answer is yes. And so don't use your budget on your client. That's a mistake I used to make a lot, where like I couldn't afford this, or I don't see the value in this, or I wouldn't do this, which brings up another point. If you're selling hospital indemnity coverage, do you yourself have a gap coverage or a hospital indemnity plan? If you're selling life insurance, do you yourself have one of those policies? And if you don't, who are you using to describe who does? My mom makes more sales for me than anybody because I tell stories about things I have to do to help my mom. If you were my mom, this is what would happen. If you were my mom, this. Same thing holds true. I had somebody call my office this week. She lives in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is an hour and a half from me in Fort Morgan, Colorado. She needs to go to Denver, Colorado for a doctor's appointment. The dual plan in Wyoming does not have transportation. So what am I going to do? For the second time in 2 years, I'm arranging a day on my schedule where I can drive to Cheyenne, Wyoming, pick her up, take her to a doctor's appointment, wait for her to be done, and take her back to Cheyenne and drive home. Now, why would I do that? Because if my mom lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and she had no ride, I would go do that. And so if I hold true to that on every single client, guess what every single client tells everybody else about me? They don't say, hey, I have an awesome insurance agent. They say, hey, Joshua, he goes above and beyond. He came and picked me up and took me to my doctor's office. Can you believe that? He showed up and argued a medical bill for me on my behalf. Has anybody ever done that? Because if you're not, you should be. You should offer those services. Your client should call you first. So I get reminded all the time when I get out of the zone with reciprocal obligation. And I got reminded on the train. So has anybody ever been to DIA? In Denver, you have to take trains to get from terminal to terminal. And I'm on the terminal, and this cute young man is sitting right there in front of me. He looks at me, and he goes, I really like your watch. And immediately, what was my response? Thank you. And then I said, you have really awesome shoes, and I love your curly hair. And it reminded me how you make reciprocal obligation work is you give value, high value, without the expectation of return at all times, and eventually someone will reciprocate. Here's the thing I'll tell you. Most people won't. Most people won't. We've gotten to a dark place in some respects with people where it's kind of like it's not even a live and let live world anymore. Now it's a live my way or die kind of mentality in some respects. And so I think we have a duty to help fix that, okay? So working a lead. I want to finish with working a lead. Who likes leads? Because I hate leads. Like, I hate leads with a passion, but they're necessary. They're necessary for everybody. No, I know you love leads. I know you guys love leads, okay? The lead vendors are back there going, you better like leads, everybody. So leads. The power of a lead really is just giving you an opportunity to create a referral in my mind. So a power of a lead is to create a referral. How do I create a referral? Well, I got to create a relationship. So when I first get on the phone, the first thing I want to ask them is, hi, how are you? Or if you listen to Greg or Becky, and he'll tell you, hi, how you been? Okay? Now, the reason that's effective is it gives me 3 pieces of information. What tone and inflection they speak in, what mood they're in, and maybe what personality type they have. And that allows me to quickly modify my rest of my process to that. And so asking questions, with the reciprocation, I say, hi, how are you, Misty? What are you going to say? No, if I say, hi, how are you? Okay, so she said, good, how are you? But if I say, hey, Misty, I'm great, how are you? Now, she does not reciprocate the question back. That means I kept control of the conversation. So if you want to keep control of the conversation, answer the question before you ask it. Answer the question before you ask it, and they will not stop you. Because you'll be the one who always is serving. So especially in the beginning of the conversation, the first phone call, it's very critical to answer the questions you're going to ask before you answer them. Or if it's a weird situation, like who's your doctor? You don't say, my doctor's Dr. Jones, what's yours? That doesn't work. You tell them why you need the information. I call it the old, tell them why you're going to pull their pants down before you do routine. No, and this is how I'm going to make you guys remember it. So for the ladies, you know how it works. Men, you definitely know how it works. At the end of the physical, what happens, Zach? We have to turn our head and cough. But here's what I'd say. If the doctor just went in for it, most of us would be kung-fuing and stuff, right? So what happens is you got to tell them what you're going to do with the information first. So when I first started in the business, and for a lot of you that have been in for a while, you get their Social Security number because that was part of their Medicare number. So that was a barrier a lot of the time. And so I had to learn this then. I'm like, look, this is what I'm going to do with the information. This is why I need it. And if you just add that extra little qualifier to the beginning before you answer the question. So again, you're either answering the question before you ask it, or you're giving the qualifier before you ask the question. This allows you to keep control of the conversation. And when you control the conversation, you control the destination of the conversation. So again, to control the destination, you have to have a goal in mind. How many of you call a lead with the goal of just getting them to answer the phone? It feels that way sometimes, right? And I recently had to coach my son on this, where you get in that rhythm where you're making phone call after phone call after phone call, and it's voicemail after voicemail after voicemail. Anybody ever have a situation where they answer and you go, oh, I wasn't ready. Can we do it over? Because I wasn't ready. And so for me, the visualization comes into play. And the best one I've come up with is baseball. So if you've ever played softball or baseball, you hit less than you miss, yes? And so it's the same concept. I try to think this is the pitch. Every time, this is the pitch. Be ready. Here comes the pitch. Here comes the pitch. Remind yourself what the goals are. Remind yourself what the mission is. If you should have a sheet in front of you of your script. And the script for me is just the questions I need to ask. Because if you didn't know this, it was said on somebody else's presentation, he or she who gets there first wins. I would add, he or she who completes fact-finding first wins. Because if you talk to somebody else first and you don't get through fact-finding and I talk to him second and I do, I guarantee you I win. He or she who gets through fact-finding first wins. People do not want to go through that personal information with more than one person. And so if you can build up the trust fast enough, and this is how you do it, you don't talk about Medicare or insurance until they ask you. And it takes discipline and practice because we panic. As I'll give you an example. If someone says, I say, hi, how are you? And the guy says, fine. He's not giving me a lot to work with. Has anybody ever had that happen where they just say, fine? Okay? That's their cue for what? Most of us get to the point and just start dumping our pitch at that point. I urge you to step back and let them not have control. And how do you get control back? You got to ask another question. So don't just have the hi, how are you question ready. If they say fine, you got to have the backup ready. Oh, me too. In fact, I'm in Salt Lake City right now. I've been having a great conference. I've been learning great things. I'm going to give them the humanality of my day. If the weather's been awesome, I'm going to talk about the weather. I'm going to keep going down a tangent until they ask me specifically, who are you, what the hell are you doing, why are you calling me? Because I want them to invite me to give the answer versus me try to cram it down their throat. Because all I got to do is get them to ask, and they're going to be listening now. But if I don't get them to ask, what are they doing? They're turning me out with an objection, and the only reason they give you an objection is what? If they don't trust you. That's the only reason you're going to get an objection. And the other way you prevent objections is start adding them into your questions. And so as an example, if somebody keeps saying, like if you've worked 10 leads and 5 of them said I need to think about it, then from now on you should be asking everybody, hey, when you're making a decision, do you normally need to think about it? Because you'll pull the bullet out of the gun, they can't shoot it at you later. Okay, so when you're getting a bunch of objections in a row, which is why it's important to record your phone calls, which is why it's important not just to wait till CMS to ask you about it before you listen to it. You should be recording and listening to your phone calls every day. Treat this like a professional. If you treat this like you're a professional athlete and you watch your film and you make adjustments and you go, oh man, did I hear myself when I said it's like, oh, I never should say it like that. You can program that out of it. How many times have I said up here? I used to say every 10 seconds. Over time, I programmed that out of myself. I used to smoke cigarettes. which, by the way, if you do that, here's the hack, markpatrickseminars.com. I don't get paid for that, but go to markpatrickseminars.com. I paid $50 to get hypnotized. They turned it off like a light switch, which was what made me understand that humans can be programmed, because I didn't think it was possible. So I'm going to leave you with this because I have 30 seconds left. I love this stuff, if you can't tell. I could talk for 20 hours about all this stuff and give you everything I have, and I'm willing to. So I have these sheets I printed out. It's the only thing I brought. My booth, everything else I left back in Colorado on accident, and so I had to make a pivot. But I'm gonna do a Zoom training for anybody in this room. It is free, no cost, no obligations, no nothing, but I'm gonna dive deeper into this concept, so I hope you all wanna join that. I would love to pour in, and don't hesitate to reach out to me. I have a QR code that I can hold up. I didn't bring it in. You guys should be able to zoom in and get it anyway. Right? There you go. Test your phone, Zoom. No, this QR code is to put my cell phone number, my email, and everything on your phone. If you want to join that Zoom, I have a flyer right over here that you could just take that QR code. But thank you for your time.